What is up, Karma Nation? Long time no see. It has been quite a while since we hopped on this podcast. When I say this podcast, I just mean the Karma Media Network. This is actually the first time you guys are seeing this podcast right here that I have titled Pony Up. I hope you guys like it. That's the best I got. That's the best I got right now. So we have but what I actually meant is the best two smartest horse handicappers. I don't know the official title, actually. What is it considered? Horse handicapper, horse betting expert? What title there fits with what you guys are doing with Bet Karma? What is your preferred title, if you will?
Oh, that's a tough question.
You're just like, I actually have no idea.
I guess handicapper is fine with me.
Horse handicapper. All right, I'll take it. So yeah, so we have Ricky over here to my left on the screen, who's been with us since the inception of adding the horse betting package to Bet Karma, and then we have our newest member right here, Caleb, also helping us out, rocking the horse racing picks. Now, if you don't know what that is, if you don't know what the package is, go to betkarma.com/premium and just click on horses. It explains everything it involves. What you do is when you sign up for this monthly subscription, you get invited to a premium Discord channel where these two guys are dropping picks roughly about not 5 times a day, but 5 days out of the week. Now, of course, if you go to Bet Karma's Twitter account, every single winning screenshot gets posted to Bet Karma's Twitter account. Just scroll through that, check out all the winning screenshots. If you're like, hey, these guys are what they're talking about, which I'll give you a little hint. They do. Go to betkarma.com/premium and sign up for that, and we'll get you in the Discord. You start winning. Now, the best part is that horse racing never went away. So you're watching this right now, still in the deep midst of the coronavirus. There's almost no sports happening across the entire planet. I think we have NASCAR coming back in a week, maybe 2 weeks. There is Korean Baseball League coming back right now, but we have had horses the entire time. So while everyone else is just having their betting bankrolls just sit and grow mold, everybody with Bet Karma and Karma Nation has been hitting these horse racing picks on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis. So what we're talking about right now, as you see right below my face, is the Arkansas Derby, which is tomorrow, or today if you're watching this on Saturday.
So this is a super important race for horses that have aspirations to make or win the Kentucky Derby, although it's definitely coming at a time that's a little bit unusual, as normally the Kentucky Derby would be tomorrow. Thanks to our dear friend coronavirus, Kentucky Derby was postponed to the first Saturday in September instead of the first Saturday in May. So as a result, the Arkansas Derby decided to delay their stake schedule a little bit and run on the first Saturday in May instead. So we have the Arkansas Derby tomorrow. Horses that win this race will win 100 points towards making the Kentucky Derby gate. So there is a point system involved. It's called the Road to the Kentucky Derby if you want to Google it. But in short terms, basically what that means is that there are certain races that are identified for 3-year-olds that are going at least a mile typically that get them points towards the Kentucky Derby. The harder races that are a little bit longer typically award more points. And this is one of the top point earning races for all 3-year-olds. So any 3-year-old who wins this race is pretty much a lock to make the Kentucky Derby come September. And last, I guess, due to the fact that there were so many entries due to a number of tracks not running right now, they got an overflow field for the Arkansas Derby this year and decided to split it into 2 different divisions. So there's actually 2 different Arkansas Derbies running tomorrow, race 11 and race 13. The winners of both of them will be guaranteed a spot in the Kentucky Derby, and there's a pretty good chance that who gets second place will also make the gate as well. Due to the racing schedule being all backwards due to a lot of tracks having canceled or not being allowed to run, such as Santa Anita and Aqueduct up in New York, we're missing a couple key races that we normally would have that would award points. So I've heard some discussion about a couple of the big summer races that have typically come after the Kentucky Derby, like the Travers or the Haskell, that will potentially and most likely award points for the Kentucky Derby. And I've also heard some chatter they might try to reschedule the canceled races that didn't occur in the past 2 months. But I'm not really sure if there's an exact number or if they know what that looks like yet.
So race 11, as Caleb noted, there's 22 horses that were put into the Derby. It's separated. So now we have 2 races coming. I guess race 11, we have 2 scratches, Shoot or Shoot, Wrecking Crew, that's the number 6, and the number 7. So now we're reduced from 11 horses in this race down to 9. And obviously, looking through this race, there's a few long shots, and then there's some horses that I guess are pretty popular. Charlatan is obviously the morning line favorite at 1-1. You're eating chalk if you take it, but at the same time, the horse has never done anything wrong. I'm, I have a soft spot for the 4 horse, which is Governor Morris. I think that if Charlatan is up on the lead and maybe gets speed duel, I doubt it. It never has happened. That just opens the door for Governor Morris to kind of roll in, maybe take a piece. I kind of like Shoot or Shoot before the scratch, so it kind of ruins things. I actually just pulled this up and saw the scratch today, but I don't think there's going to be a huge surprise in this race. I'm not sure if Caleb agrees, but I know Caleb usually likes to go against the favorite, but this favorite is a favorite for a reason.
Yeah, Ricky, I think you know me pretty well, and I don't like to take chalk very often, but I think it's important to know when you have to eat your chalk and take the free square and try to move on. And Charlatan, the 1 horse here, who is even money on the morning line and will probably be 1-5, if not honestly 1-9 in this race. This horse caught every break, from catching what I think is the easier of the 2 divisions to having his main other pace threat in Shoot or Shoot scratch out and getting the rail draw so he doesn't have to worry about getting stuck wide. It's tough to see a way that this horse doesn't win this race. I'm kind of with you on Governor Morris. That's a horse I was really high on in the Florida Derby. He kind of disappointed me there a little bit. I don't mind losing it to the law, but the fact he couldn't get past an injured 8th Indian and the 80-1 shot Chivalry, who held on for second, is tough for me to go back to the well there. But if you have an opinion against Charlatan here, you'll get paid no matter who it is, even if it's the second choice. But it's tough for me to really like any horse after Charlatan in this spot. It's just he caught all the breaks.
The easy answer is don't get involved in trifectas and superfectas until you know what you're doing. There's a lot of factors for picking the first 3 horses to finish a race and the first 4. I mean, you want to get an understanding of how a race is going to look. So if you want some action, your easiest bet is to just throw some money on a show, which means that a horse can come first, second, or third. If you want to bypass, your payout's going to be small on a show bet, but if you want to bypass that, you can go straight to a win bet. With a win bet, obviously your horse needs to win, but that's the easiest bet because there's nothing you really need to know besides, oh, my horse came in first or it didn't, and you get paid. And I think saving exactas or trifectas or superfectas, that requires knowing how to read a program, analyzing a race, understanding, speeds and distance and turf and, surface, I should say, not turf. There's a lot of factors that go into figuring out the full outcome of a race, where I would just say, take it easy and just do a win bet or a show bet or place, I guess, for second.
I would completely agree with Ricky. I think, especially starting out, win bets are probably the way to go. If you really just want action and don't care about some smaller returns, then show bets are also good, where your horse can just run anywhere from first, second, or third. I would not recommend jumping into exactas, trifectas, things like that until you get a bit more of a handle on it, because trying to figure out the horses who are going to run second and third is really a different approach than trying to figure out the horses that are most likely to win, because oftentimes those aren't the same thing due to pace setup or a few other factors. So win betting is never a bad idea. You're never too advanced for win betting. I mean, there's ways to leverage that opinion to where you might get paid a little bit more, but win bets are definitely not new bets. And I should win bet more. And honestly, it's always a good wager.
This race is for 4-year-olds and up, for the sandwich race, I should say. So can we call it race 12? Race 12. So it's for 4-year-olds. And actually, if you start to dive into who's running in the race, you'll see some horses that were running in the previous edition of the Kentucky Derby. You see Tacitus in there, Tax, Improbable is also in there. So you're seeing popular horses that if you're newer to horse racing, but you tune into the big events, this race 12 is going to have a horse that you've probably heard of. They didn't win anything in the Derby, but at least the name's there, and maybe you remember that. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. That one is just a fun race. I think that they threw in there with big names, and obviously this wouldn't have happened if they didn't split the Arkansas Derby in half. So in order to run in the Kentucky Derby, you have to be a 3-year-old. That's kind of the requirement. In the Kentucky, so for these Arkansas Derby, you have race 11, race 13. You have 3-year-olds running, and you're accumulating points. They're called prep races. So when you're looking at race 12, it's not a prep race. It's just a handicap. It's just a special race. Nothing more than that.
2 cents on race 12. I think this is the hardest race in the pretty much back half of the card, with a lot of horses here that were quote unquote Derby washouts from last year. There's 3 horses I'm kind of looking at the most. The 2-horse Trophy Chaser. I think this horse has a lot of early speed and really got good once they stretched him out to going a little bit longer distances. He ran the 2 best races of his career in his last 2 races. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that they were going a mile and an eighth and a mile and a 16th. I'm also interested in Mr. Freeze. This horse has a ton of early speed and will probably be first or second early on in the race. The question with him is if he really wants to go this far. He seems a little bit better going a mile than a mile and an eighth. But he's a horse I think that has some really big speed figures and makes a lot of sense in this spot. And the last one I'm really looking at is the 12 by my standards. This horse was one of those Derby washouts from last year where he looked pretty good racing at the fairgrounds and then just didn't really have his best day in the Kentucky Derby. He went to took some time off to rest up and actually didn't come back until February of this year. But he's now a 4-year-old, so he's improved a lot from his 3-year-old season. His last 2 races, he won as easy as you could ask for. You could argue that he's sort of got lucky with some good trips in that race, getting to sit on a slow pace, and one of the main pace threats didn't quite break last time out in the New Orleans Classic. But I think that this horse just is really improving and getting good at the right time and makes a lot of sense here. So race 13, that's the second half of the Arkansas Derby. This is the more competitive heat of the 2 divisions. So it's the one I find a little more interesting. So Bob Baffert is probably the most famous trainer in America. And if you've watched any horse racing and if you know any trainer, there's a good chance Bob Baffert's the one that you know. Charlatan that we mentioned earlier is one of his horses, and he has a horse in this race called Nadal, who's the other one. This horse is going to be a heavy favorite and should be a deserving favorite, but this is one of the spots where I'm going to try to not eat chalk and try to beat the favorite. I think Nadal caught a bit of a break last time, although he set some great fractions and really had a game win, and it was impressive. I think he's going to get a similar situation here, and he's going to take a lot of heat up front from probably Wells Bayou. Maybe some other ones might send a little bit, like Storm the Court. But my top pick here is actually the 4-horse King Guillermo. This is a horse that upset the Tampa Bay Derby at 50-1. I did not have him that day. But looking back, he kind of made sense. We didn't really know how good he was on dirt because he only tried it once, and then they ran him on the grass twice. They put him back on the dirt, and he just ran a huge race. He won by almost 5 lengths, and his turn of foot just explosiveness late in the race to just pull away from the rest of those horses, I thought was really impressive. So I don't like the price on him. You're getting 3-1, and I think that's a little bit short. But if he floats up to the 5-1 range, I think he becomes really interesting. And I think there's a good chance that happens because I do think that Baffert horse, Nadal, takes a lot of money.
Well, my number one question is the 4 horse. I'm not sure if it was a fluke or not, but obviously in the Tampa, he just destroyed everyone else. He was clearly the best that day. Obviously, we don't know what he's going to be able to do. I heard his trainer was going to originally wait to race until the Kentucky Derby. That was before it was moved. So really, we were going to just go in there having one really good race on dirt and then see what happens in the Kentucky Derby when he's running with 20 horses. I don't know where I put that one yet. Obviously, Nadal is. I mean, he's going to be the favorite. It's just like Charlatan, and I don't know if you really want to, try to make some sort of pick 3 using those ones. I don't know really where we stand with that, but I'm actually going to go a different way, and I'm looking at Silver Prospector. I think this horse is fantastic, and he's already accumulated a lot of points. I'm not sure where he sits on the board, but he's either on the bubble or already in the Kentucky Derby in terms of points. And I think that the race should set up where Silver Prospector is able to take over if Nadal stumbles and King Guillermo is not for real.